Taken straight from the public relations email, Ark: The Great Escape, the witty 3D point-and-click adventure penned by critically acclaimed comic book writer Greg Rucka, follows the adventures of Alicia, a former cop and current journalism student, as she investigates the origin of the strange golden sphere that has turned her life upside down. Now, Ark: The Great Escape is actually the third in the series of this adventure game. I have not previously played the other two, but after playing through this game, I feel the knowledge of the other two episodes wasn't necessary to finish, though I may have missed some of the jokes along the way. In order to catch you up on the story, Ark does a great job of kind of summarizing it all in one of the opening narration scenes. Now, unfortunately, this scene kind of drags on for an extremely long time and is a little bit difficult to follow if you're not somebody who has actually played the previous games. After it played through all the way, though, I feel I had an idea of what the game was about, so it did an okay job of getting me to the point where I needed to be, though, as I said, it was a little bit difficult to understand. It was kind of long, and it was this grainy, as you can see right now playing in the video, it was this grainy, like looking through a TV video quality type deal, so it was a little bit difficult to watch, but I feel it was a really good way to get people who haven't played the previous two episodes up to speed on what was going on. So I will say that it was a decent way to introduce the game. Now, if you know me well, you know that I'm a sucker for adventure games. I love the genre. I grew up on adventure games. I learned to read because of adventure games, so I didn't shy away from the opportunity to give this game a go. It starts out with you falling down a garbage chute, and then it kind of lets you loose into the world, quote unquote. Now, I think that's a pretty interesting way to start the game. It kind of gives you a story, you know what happened before you start. However, once the gameplay actually got going, I did find it very difficult to grasp exactly what I was supposed to do. And I don't just mean what I'm supposed to do to actually play the game. I mean, the interface, though it's a simplistic interface, there was no narration or there was no tutorial that kind of showed you how the interface is supposed to be played, what you're supposed to click, how you're supposed to do things. This might be something I missed from the previous two games. I'm not sure about that, but I will tell you I struggled for quite a long time with understanding what to click, how I could interact with things, where my inventory was, what that crazy thing up was in the top left hand corner with the colored lines on it. It really took me a minute to understand what was happening, so I wish I had a more cleanly designed interface from the beginning, or at least just a tutorial that kind of said, hey, click here, this is your PDA, because it took me a long time to understand that the top left thing is my PDA, and it's very important before you can even really get the game started. It was so difficult for me to even actually grasp, I went back into the menu system assuming I had missed an option for something to turn on to show me what I was supposed to do. It took a little trial and error. I finally did get there, though. There was nothing in the menu that's missing, so if you play the game and have the same problem, keep clicking around, you'll eventually find it. Oh, PDA.
Alicia?
Frankie? Frankie, is that you?
Alicia! I've been trying to reach you for hours.
Now that we finally found this PDA, the game actually gets started with our very first puzzle. Our friend Frankie is somewhere up on the surface, and somehow knows where we're at based on this PDA, and tells us to rip off our clothes and sends us a stick down there in order to help in this garbage chute. Now, spoiler alert incoming. It took me a little bit to really understand what I was supposed to do with these new items because I couldn't use any of them on myself, and it took me a while to actually realize my inventory could interact with itself to combine objects into something that I needed. But that was really the introduction to the first puzzle, so they kind of baby step you into how you're supposed to play the game, which is what a good adventure game does. It's got to be something with these things. Can I put them together? I could put them together. I made a splint. Okay. Now, as this is a review and not a walkthrough, we'll skip ahead to a few puzzles later, where we finally start interacting with some new characters. First up, we got Dr. Cure. Yep, Dr. Cure. How clever. And this is where we first get introduced to how narration works in this game. I actually like the way that it works. Instead of having a series of questions just in word forms, it's a series of pictures, as you can see on the screen, that are meant to signify different things. And now, I know the pictures that you're seeing right now are just pictures of my face, and now we got the icebreaker going on. It's really interesting in the mechanics of the way this works. You click on one of the options and you'll ask about a certain subject or object or something of the sort. And you can keep clicking on those options, and sometimes, like, the ice starts to melt as you are whittling down the amount of choices that you're going to end up getting until it completely, like, lightens up to show that you've exhausted all the possible choices in that narration tree. Now, I thought that was different, and I thought that was clever, and it was really intriguing when I was playing the game. However, sometimes it got a little bit confusing, because if you clicked on something out of order, you would actually get a further part of the story that you hadn't yet learned. So things got confusing. If I really went in to talk to somebody specifically about the sphere per se, and I clicked the sphere option, but it was after a different option, it would talk about what the answers were in that previous option, and I was kind of like scratching my head for a second until I realized you kind of have to take things in order or you're going to get yourself really confused. But that being said, I like the interface. I think it was kind of fun to play with and just a different take on a traditional adventure game's narration tree. Now, you end up meeting a lot of different characters throughout your course of playing this game, and sometimes the narration options are extremely vast. I would occasionally find myself sitting down for a solid 10 minutes at a single individual, clicking on all the different narration to just listen to it and listen to it and listen to it to get all the way through the narration options that they had to offer. It was all very important to the game, but it could have been honed down just a little bit, because instead of playing a game, I almost felt like I was reading or listening to a novel. And it got really frustrating with one of the characters in general who doesn't speak English, so you had to sit there and read the subtitles the entire time to understand what he was saying, because the words that were coming out of his mouth were not English words. It was some alien language, so you just had to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading to make sure you understood what was going on. That our work was keeping whatever was happening on the surface going, and then you're living proof that there's been laughing at us for years, making fools of us. As with many adventure games, the more and more you play, the more and more expanded the world becomes. And this comes one of the highlights I really did actually appreciate about this game, is as the world got bigger and bigger, they introduced a fast travel system through your map icon in the top left that when you click on the map icon, it would take you to every point you've already been to, and you could easily click and fast travel to your next location, which made it very handy to play this game. So what is this game? Well, in this game, you're following Alicia around District 8, who's trying to get her golden sphere back and make her escape from this area. As you play, you meet people, there's puzzles. It's an adventure game to the T in that respect. However, I did find a couple flaws with the game. For one, I found a lot of the voice acting extremely lackluster. It kind of takes away from the atmosphere. Some of the actors just seemed like they weren't really into their character, or they were really overdoing their character. But then there's Horn.
Hello there, young lady. A fresh, lovely face gracing Horn's humble shop, and I am delighted to greet you, and I'm sure anything you need, want, covet, or desire, well, I'm the Valerian to find the exact thing you're looking for. A small fee, of course, but what's the exchange of coins amongst friends?
I was just...
Say no more, young, cunning, beautiful, full of life. You think you have it all. What can Horn offer you, you ask? Well, what can I offer? The missing piece, that extra invisible something? Call it fate, or luck, or fortune, but Horn can supply it.
I thought Horn's voice acting was phenomenal. He really pulled me back into the game, and I actually would find sometimes when I was really lost in a puzzle and getting kind of bored with the surroundings, I would just come back and talk to him for a little bit because I just liked his dialogue and the way he said things and the way he was really into this character. So Horn, you got a big thumbs up in my book. Another thing I had a big issue with in this game is that sometimes the dialogue wouldn't actually match up to what the narration was. Some of it was spelling errors. I can get over some spelling errors, saying reason with a C instead of an S. That's okay. I can kind of get over that. That can get worked out in the editing process. But at one point in the game, a critical point, and it's telling you how many coins you have to collect, and the character clearly states that there's 6 coins that you have to collect, whereas the narration says 5.
Coin.
Sasha used to collect them. He had 6 of them, I think. I wonder where the rest went.
Wait.
Now that I come to think of it, he gave me a strange coin long ago. It might be of use.
It said 5 right here. It said 5, and he read 6. How many is it? Come on, man. How many is it?
Grigor, we'll talk later, okay?
I'd like that.
And sometimes the narration was just straight up weird. Alicia's got this dog that I still have absolutely no idea right now if it's a male or a female.
How's my boy? How's my big, beautiful girl?
Wait, you said... I'm confused. Make up your mind. Is it a boy or is it a girl? I just don't know. But anyways, not only that, sometimes the narration would just give you completely wrong information. At one scene, you're sitting there talking to Molly the bartender about a trickster who has a cup game, and not only does she keep calling the cups cards, so that threw me off at first as well to know if we were actually talking about the same thing, but she tells you something about the way that he cheats in this particular game of cups.
It's that simple. He uses the magnet on the coin after he's shown it, but before the game begins.
So no matter if you pick the right card, it's not there.
It's not a card.
Because it's not even on the table.
Exactly. Now go humiliate him.
Now with that new knowledge in hand, I figured it'd be simple to kind of go beat this trickster at his own game. But no matter how much I tried to play and tried to swindle him and tried to cheat him knowing his trick, the game just wouldn't let me do it. It wasn't until finally playing the good old adventure game style game where you just start clicking on everything you possibly can until something happens. Did something happen?
Grigor is going there to help you.
Wait, what? Now, I don't know why I need Grigor here. The game never really told me I needed another person to do this, but okay, we're on to something new. And all of a sudden, the great steel coin option just magically exists. A coin that Molly just told me isn't on the table anymore, somehow was just able to be stolen because it's sitting right there on the table. The information just didn't make sense. Some of the puzzles also kind of fall into that adventure game conundrum where you know exactly what you're supposed to do and it just won't work. That until you click on the exact right things in the exact right order, you can't progress past that part of the story. For instance, this drinking contest. I keep being straight up told I need to let Frankie do it.
Oh, God. I feel like my brain is trying to slide down my spine. Again.
This isn't working, and it can't be good for you. Maybe Frankie would have better luck?
Maybe Frankie would have better luck. You would, Frankie. So get in there, damn it, and do it up.
Interesting.
What do you mean it's pointless?
Not a chance.
And yup, at the end of the day, Frankie is the one that has to do it. And though I had all the pieces of inventory I needed to make that happen, until I clicked on the exact right thing in the exact right order, it just wouldn't happen. You look sexy, Frankie. And at one point in the game, there's a telescope that everything seems absolutely normal with. But unbeknownst to myself, until I did the old adventure game thing and accidentally clicked on the right type of thing to kind of start progressing a story, I didn't realize there was a different piece to this that I needed to deal with. Now, I'm not going to give you the spoiler on exactly what that is here in this review, but just let me tell you, everything isn't really as it seems. I do wish the game would have given me some type of indication, though, that something's wrong with this telescope view that we're looking at right now, that I need to do something. There's no narration, there's no dialogue, there's nothing that makes me seem that anything is out of the ordinary here, but that ends up becoming a big piece later in the game. Now, don't get me wrong, this game had some really great puzzles in it. Some of those puzzles that you actually finally completed and were like, aha, that was great, that was awesome, I understand. It also brought back some of those old adventure game feels where you would have to see something in one place and implement it something else. And I love having that feeling of satisfaction when you really complete and figure out a puzzle that you've been just like mind-boggled over for so long. Unfortunately, instead of the game having more moments like this, yes! it ended up having more moments like this. I don't understand. One of the most frustrating parts of this entire game was one of the major puzzles that was within the game, and it was about a murder investigation that was going on. Now, after finally getting to the point where you're allowed to quote-unquote solve the murder, I went through the dialogue from all these individuals to try to figure out who this murderer was for, I'm embarrassed to say, for a few hours. The creator of the game even put a matrix up on the Steam forum that's supposed to help you make it easier to actually solve this part, just a cheat sheet and a way to follow down based on the narration that these guys give you to go through and solve what is actually going on. I don't want to spoil what the puzzle is because maybe I'm just not smart enough to solve this type of puzzle. I've solved many types of puzzle like this in the past though, so I want to edge on the fact that I think it was poorly written. And maybe I'm wrong. One of you guys, if you can prove to me exactly how it works based on what's in the game, I would be more than happy to see that. It gets a little confusing too because you go through and listen to the narration of all these people, and I was following the narration, writing a bunch of things down. Then it turns out there's a button that you can hit to look at all the hints that you've been given on the screen in text format, which was helpful, I would think, except it changed the wording of what people said. It actually used different words, so it became even more confusing to follow when you were going through and trying to compare it up with the narrative to make sure everything was actually in this text-written dialogue that was there to help you. And I don't know, like I said, maybe it was just me, maybe it's a very well-written puzzle that I just couldn't get to the bottom of, but I ended up just brute forcing it at the end because I couldn't figure it out. Luckily, it's only 2 different choices that you have to make, so it doesn't really take long to brute force it if you really want to just to get past that stage, but I'd really like to know how all this built up into the game and know how this puzzle is really solved and what I was doing wrong with using the matrix and this and that I just could not get to an answer. Now, all in all, I know I've talked about a lot of negatives in this game, but it really wasn't that bad of a game. It was actually fun to play. The story was a little riveting at times, and it was a little boring at others, but it was enough to kind of keep me going and want to get to the end. It was about 4.5 hours of playthrough for myself, and you guys could probably do it faster. I had some trouble with some easy puzzles that after I actually figured them out, I was like, you know, I was really frustrated and angry about that puzzle, but it was actually something I really should have thought of, so that's not the fault of the game. Whereas there was other puzzles that I was stuck on for even longer that I still, after completing them, don't really understand how they fit in with the game or what clues I was supposed to get that were supposed to lead me there. They just happen to be solved by circumstance and just screen scraping and clicking and just combining everything I possibly could. Now, the conclusion of the game, it leaves it open to bring out the next game. I probably would be willing to give the next game a shot as well. I just hope some of the things in this review are looked at before maybe the final release or the release of future games. One of the biggest things is you gotta make sure your narration that matches up with your dialogue. When I'm searching and wondering if there's 5 coins or 6 coins that I need to finish this game, you just never really know if you're finished or not. I kept sitting there thinking, am I missing something, or is this just the way it's supposed to be? And I just didn't know. Would this game be a game that would bring me back into the adventure genre if I'd been out of it for a while and really wanted to get going with a good puzzle game? No. This game, if I were to pick this up for the first time after being out of the adventure game genre for many years, I would probably swear off adventure games forever. However, I like to give things a chance. I play a lot of new adventure games that come out and see how they can bring that genre back, and I'm glad that I'm seeing companies that are actually trying. And as I said, it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing the game with just a lot of frustration mixed in the middle of it. So, as for my review, I'd give it, I don't know, maybe 5 out of 10 stars. It's okay. Middle of the road, could be better. It could be worse though. I think the visuals are great. The dialogue is pretty good for the story, though all the characters and the people who play the characters, the voice actors, aren't really into it all the time. But then there's Horn.
The mystery, I don't know. I've been trying to get it open for years. It was left over from the last auction when they cleared the storage area, and nobody wanted it because nobody knew the combination. But I can't help wondering what sort of precious treasures it may hold.
And there you have it, folks. Ark: The Great Escape. It's available on Steam for $7.99, or you can buy the Ark plus the Ark Great Escape pack for $12.99. Links below in the description. People on Steam really seem to like it as well, so don't take my review as the only review of this game. Check it out for yourself. It's worth it. I'm telling you, it's a decent adventure game. You'll have some fun with it, you'll have some frustration with it, but it's worth a shot. I am JSano19, and my full gameplay of this game will be available on my channel in the coming weeks, so check it out, see what you think. Alright everybody, game on.